Hi, I'm Daz Smith, and this is a project for the Hellfire Club. This is a target that I've wondered about for several decades and includes minimal feedback information at this time. 6 remote viewers blindly worked this target, knowing only that the topic of targets in this group involved is mystery targets. The target involves a person called Frederick Valentich, and he was an Australian pilot who disappeared while on a 125-mile nautical training flight in a Cessna 182L light aircraft. This was over the Bass Strait on the evening of Saturday, 21st of October 1978. Valentich radioed Melbourne air traffic control at 7:06 p.m. to report that an unidentified aircraft was following him at 4,500 feet. He was told there was no unknown traffic at that level. Valentich said he could see a large unknown aircraft which appeared to be illuminated by 4 bright landing lights. He was unable to confirm its type, but said that it had passed 1,000 feet overhead and was moving at high speed. Valentich then reported that the aircraft was approaching him from the east, and he said that the other pilot might be purposely toying with him. Valentich said that the aircraft was orbiting above him and that it had a shiny metallic surface with a green light to it. Valentich further reported that he was experiencing engine problems, and when he was asked to identify the aircraft, he radioed, "It is not an aircraft." So what we're going to do next is we're going to take a look at the remote viewers' data as they summarized it. We had 6 remote viewers work this target. They came up with a wealth of data on this, which was brilliant, and it overlapped in many details. The full report is 320 pages of remote viewing data. We'll include the full download of this file as well for you to have a look at, and you can have a look at that, and then you can make up your own mind on this case. I want to give a full disclosure on this target, to be honest. As you know, I've been looking at this for several decades, and I did have a predisposition on this that it most probably involved a UFO type incident, and that was based on the very scant information we had, which was the last conversation Fred Valentich had with air ground control. I had no other preconceived ideas about this target, what it involved or who it involved, just that it was some kind of strange UFO event. So take a look at the data, have a look at what the remote viewers came up with. I think it's fantastic work. Make up your own mind and let us know in the comments below. Take care.
Basically, my advanced visual sketches and my S3 start of that is, and my end of report is usually the most accurate in all of my sessions. So I'll start there. The first impression I got was looking down on the ocean, like with a huge wall of water coming up at me, but it is foaming, and there's square structures that I'm going to notice the next, and then something fancy and solid and toothy, indicating energetics, something curvy and long, like a tunnel, but there was some metallic aspect to this, which was intangible. I didn't understand that at all. And then I got the biological, this person in the captain hat and a space tunnel and a flying saucer, but it having something round on it, like the descriptive porthole. And the idea of seduction, or I assume it's something pulling something else toward it without control. That's maybe what that suggests. I have no idea. What I did get was gravity changing, inversion of gravity. ET writing, I have no idea what that is about. It's like there was a message in the water being a message, some kind of writing connecting to extraterrestrial ambience. And in my S3, I was this biological when I asked, where am I in the target? I am this biological, I am inside something whirling and tunnely, being like sucked in or through with a very distressful feeling and no idea where I am, and it is hollow. It is almost like I had a straight P7 the whole session from the start. And when I was looking down, I saw my hands had blood on them. I didn't understand that. And as I looked to my body to see more, get more information, it's like pixelating, like almost like a TV screen, pixels, but it's starting to disappear. So it's really something strange going on there, some anomaly. And at the end of the report, I got that this plane landed safely. And after I got the target feedback, I just went, wow, how can this plane have landed safely? So that was really interesting. There's definitely some anomaly going on there.
Interesting. It makes me wonder, because we
I'd
had a
rather not go
contrast of
into
data
detail because, sorry?
I was just saying we had a kind of contrast of data, because if you have the plane or the person in the plane being safe, some of the other data indicates that we had was death related as well. So I wonder what the real situation is with that. Of course, because it's an unknown, we're never really gonna know what happened to the young chap. It's been a case that I've been interested in for, I think, 20 odd years, but nothing's ever been found in the 20 years that I've been looking at it. They've never found any plane or anything, any evidence of what actually happened on that day. Interesting data.
But what was strange to me was the inversion of gravity, and as this person entered this, I had this feeling of getting sucked into this round, curvy, whatever. There was like a huge explosion, and I don't know, I didn't get a lot of emotion otherwise. I mean, if this person landed in the ocean, there would have been a lot of more knowns, I think, rather than all this very strange scientific explanations and things. Wouldn't you think?
Oh yeah, I would have thought they would have found some wreckage of some kind, because they knew the direction he was flying, and they did send out search aircraft afterwards, but nothing was ever found, and nothing's been found since, which is really strange. Yeah, it's one of those ones that I wonder if we'll ever really know what happened to him. But the fact that he in his conversation with Grand Control, he was talking about this craft that was hovering above him, and it definitely wasn't a plane. Does lead to the conclusion that it is something a bit more esoteric, and your gravity thing would fit right in with that.
This guy was a pilot. I mean, he knows the difference between a bird and something else and another aeroplane.
Yeah. Great.
So I started off straight away. Look, that's starting. Oh no, is this the second one or the first one? Yeah, it's the first one. Look, I got a Mothman and this a biological and an ape man angry. So I was, I got this. I was convinced it was the the Sasquatch, because it was hairy and violent and angry. So I've got all this like racing around, things flying around, breaking apart. So, but a disaster. It's energetic, dangerous. So the other craft there is, I'm very, very, my subconscious is very fascinated by alien craft because of this magnetic sheen of energy around them. So whenever I see that, I just like want to go and touch it and find out how it works. So that, to me, is somewhere near where it happened. And then normally, if you're talking about a base, it's normally inside rock somewhere. I did get the sea, but I also got the stony place. And Upat, knowing that it was something not of this earth. So there's the creature there, and I've done him several times. That's the alien. And this, I've got this mealy mouth thing, and so that fits in with the crab person as well. There again and again, I keep going back to try and work out what is this creature. Stringy mouth. I can't. And then I went to the craft. So now that would be the bottom of the craft. And I went back in the second session and drew some more on that. It's a long cigar shape, and that's the bottom, and this part opens. I tried to draw, and it's bronzy colored. So there's the water, the sea, that's where it happened. I've actually got him down on the ground, and it feels like inside a mountain. So there's your alien base again, your okay, window to the stars. So there's your craft, and that's the window. That's the bottom end of it. I draw this several times, and it feels like there's a technology problem. So I too got something about the machine failing. There it is. That's the bottom end of it. It's the bottom, and this part here, that's where it opens. And there's your metallic glossy. It's that, I don't know, they're using magnetic energy for propulsion. And there's something, it's like an energy sluice gate. That's the bottom, it's a detail on the bottom. This is an event. There's your cigar shape of it's an energetic connection. And there's an energy leak somewhere. So I said from Mars, they're time traveling because they use wormholes to get through, right? So liquefying, that's the energy. And it's an elephant tribe, I'm saying. So this is an alien from it's a time accident. There's time energy, blood sucking. That's a bad drawing of the bottom there. Let's do the yeah, there it is. There's the second session, which has got better. Are you seeing that? Yes. Yeah. Again, I'm going back. So there's an extremely it reminds me of a whale with gills that are razor sharp, and it's dangerous, bloodthirsty, pained, and angry. It feels like a prisoner. It's stronger than kind of human normal. It doesn't feel too human, and it's very strong. It has hollow bones or a different kind of bone arrangement. It feels as though it's pierced by something metallic. So I think I'm mixing up the two there, and it feels very tired. So that could have been our man. Silvery being his plane, I reckon. Hairy, biological. Iron Man, scary. Someone's got a shaft.
I'm not sure we're seeing your entire, or I'm not seeing your entire session. I'm seeing 00100504 PDF. I see your cursor moving.
Yeah. You're not on that. There. How's that? There you go.
That's it. Yeah.
That's the Iron Man, the scary, the blood, plenty of blood. Pained, angry. That's the back end of the cigar, right? There's it there. And something happening, a fireball. So, yeah, it could be. And that's the energetics of it. Again, I get the feeling that if he was in a plane, he was drawn out and he fell. Somebody fell. See, there's energy in the person. And there's our alien. So he's got this very bony sort of arm. He feels ceramic-y and metal-y. It's a prison planet. So, the Earth prison planet, non-human exile, punishment, time, displacement. So then I did the 5 on the things flying around. And I've got accident too. I've also got accident. And the ship's hull steer, it's the cigar shape, the tube shape, and there's a malfunction because it's something to do with the changing electric field. Commotion, energy field, tornado, all of that. So there's my craft again. So that's the bottom of the craft, and I'm pretty sure that this is what opens up. This is where the key is as well. It's the electronics thing. So I had a look at that's the bottom again. I was fascinated by there you go. So that's where it opens. You can see like the jagged line. And at the back, this is the circuitry. This is something about how it works. It's underneath. The light green that you can see here, that bulges out, and that's the light. And this is like kind of bronze or gold with a circuit. Now, these things here, I went in and looked at close. Oh, there you are. It's like that. It's a little bit longer, but that's how it is. That's how it moves around. And I went back and I looked at the circuits. Because to me that was where magnetic fusion, goldy, bronzy. And that's the energy field that it uses for propulsion, using opposing fields of force. But then again, I say here, it was hemorrhaging energy and power. And there's a biological falling out and he's a prisoner. So he was definitely robbed. Oh, he looks awfully sinister and dangerous. And blood eater, there you are. So taking for some, and there's the Sasquatch. I was convinced the whole time that there's a Sasquatch. And he's linked to the flying object. There he is again. I tried a lot to do that. Okay, that's all I've really got. But yeah, there was a lot of pain and energy and anger and stuff going on there. So he was.
Hi everybody, it's Darby Miller with the Hellfire Remote Viewing Club, and today I'm going to do a quick summary of the 3 sessions that I did for target 001-0504, the Frederick Valentich disappearance that was tasked by Daz Smith. So for session 1, when I started the session, about the second page in, I was feeling a very strong electric current in my body, electric light current. I would say that the sensation that I was feeling in my body was probably, of all the remote viewing sessions I've done, it was probably the strongest and most notable physical sensation that I felt while doing a session, and really immediately caught my attention. Right into to session 1, I was detecting a man-made object, which I AOL'd as a flying saucer, and AOL'd a crash. Again, page 2 of stage 1, man-made object, felt like it was happening at nighttime, AOL'd broken glass, and a vehicle. I made note of the feeling of a charge in my body at that time. Stage 3, a man-made object, and I saw in my mind's eye at that moment what looked like a humanoid-shaped alien entity of some type. Just a quick flash in my mind, but I wrote it down, as of course we do when we get images like that. And the concept of a star, math calculations, space, and astronaut popped into my head. And because that's really high-level data, at this point I wrote that down as an AOL. Did some stage 2 data. One of the things I thought was kind of interesting, maybe a little amusing with stage 2, was that I got the concept of cooking with a new protein. That's kind of odd. Wrote it down as an AOL. Don't know what kind of protein we're talking about there. Going into stage 3, I noticed an object with people standing around it. When I probed the object, got a definite sense of movement. AOL to plane, concept of skipper, captain, or platoon. Felt like I was in the air, I was flying. I also got some data about a male. Thought he might have facial hair. more stage 3 data. Now, there's a couple of pieces of data here that indicate that inside this man-made object that I'm tracking, the man-made object that seems to travel at a very high rate of speed, there are compartments and there are things that might be best described as tools or machines. Here's one of the tools or machines. I AOL'd it as a doctor in a doctor's office or hospital. I mean, rather a table in a doctor's office or hospital. When I probed it, I got the concepts of arriving, equipment, advanced, and there was definitely some strong energetics associated with that target. Here's I took a break, went back to stage 1, got a definite sense of speed with some type of a man-made structure. Stage 3 drawing, I think this is a symbolic drawing, but one of the concepts that I got when I probed this image that I saw was that the object was like a library. It was like a card catalog, and it was associated with the concept of cycles. And I guessed DNA as possibly part of what might be being cataloged here. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit because this is intended to be a quick overview, but again, movement, concept of writing. Here's another image that I saw that again reminds me of like an examination table or something being examined. And as I probed it, got a lot of interesting data there, including a sense of fear associated with this particular aspect of the target. I'm now trying to move inside the target. Saw an image that looks like a classical sort of a UFO type shape. Drew that down. Started getting the impression of storage containers. Sad sacks is something that I heard, and the emphasis is on the sacks. Or tanks is another thing that I heard, and I felt like it might be related to for constructing something or growing something. And plants and animals seem to be a part of these tanks. Stage 4, getting some fear, concept of vast distances, something hard, something circular, something with symbols, a concept of not understanding humankind, not understanding something about destiny. And then more stage 4 data. I feel like we're really getting into Frederick's plane at this point. Metallic, propelled, energetics, movement, plane, pricking, waves. Frederick was over the ocean when we lost contact with him off the coast of Australia. Waves, life, steering wheel, height, command, military, ship. More stage 1 and 2 data. I had to take a break and then came back and wanted to reconnect to the target. Here again is the concept of little bags, similar to a sack. Another stage 3 drawing, something that appears to be a man-made object at nighttime, a concept of a ship. It's foil-like. Maybe the Navy is associated with it, or military. Here's a more triangular wedge shape, which I AOL as a jet. Back into stage 4, metallic, shiny, constructed, man-made, foreign, unfamiliar, confusion, disorientation, hiss, moving parts. Looking for them, male, boxy, ocean waves, beach, Piper Cub. Now, Frederick was flying a Cessna, which is very similar to a Piper Cub. Rocky, plane crash, beach, water, sand. Rocky, death, coast, wires and sky, depart. Wrapping up stage 1 with some stage 5 data. Flying plane, death, dismemberment, early, terror probe. It's really not looking good for Frederick at this point as far as the data that I receive for this target. Crying, hope, pain, over, death. Ouch, gotcha, oof, help, no more, crisis, death. More information about wreck and wreckage, altitude, survivors crash, survive, formaldehyde. And terror. Terror up in sky, clouds. Clouds amazing, surprise, heart, life, cloud, create, awake, up, parlay. So maybe some positive data there. So, getting right into stage 2, Daz Smith went ahead and asked me to take a closer look at some aspects of my data, which I did. Stage 2, during the cool down, I instantly got an image that, again, looks like the classic kind of UFO shape, so I just drew it down. And on page 1 of stage 2, I AOL'd another event that I am aware of. I wasn't aware of this particular target that Daz tasked us with, but I thought we might be viewing an event that I was familiar with where it was another plane crash, which again made contact with a UFO. And I believe that took place in the United States. I'm not 100% sure, though. More data, a lot of interesting data here. 2 objects. Of course, Frederick was in a plane and reported making contact with another object, which he said was not a plane. I wrote 2 objects: vehicle painted, plane, military, rice, raining down, confetti. I feel like this is a description of possibly something happening with Frederick's plane. Person, alien, sky, straight like an arrow, parts of things. Probing the life forms here. Got an impression of a man. Also got an impression of 3 spherical potato-shaped like objects, which were metallic, had compressed energetics, but they were smooth. Stage 3 drawing, got a clear image of propellers, probably Frederick's plane. A lot of data here with some AOLs of lightning, turbulence, destruction, bits and pieces, cockpit, pilot, reefs, saltwater, ocean, plane engine. Had an image that I AOL'd when I probed it as a part of something, like a rudder or fin. Actually, 5 years after his disappearance, which would have been, I guess, around 1983, they found a piece of a plane, which turned out to be a piece of the same model of Cessna that Frederick was flying. It was an engine cowl flap, and it was actually in this shape. It kind of, what I drew looks like an engine cowl flap, roughly. And they found that washed up on a beach, I believe, and some people think that could be part of his plane. Continued to probe the primary energetic at the target and had a sense of magnetic fields of energy. Probed that source of energetic some more and saw some people looking through some windows or portals. There was a sense that these people are very separate from what they're observing. And I AOL'd that they were in a ship of some type. I probed the primary purpose of the observers, and what I got a sense of, which already had data related to this, but again, it's surfacing again, that the primary purpose of the observers is to sample flora and fauna. That's an AOL, but basically I saw some white suited figures holding a box with multiple compartments, and there was the concept of animals and plants. And when I probed their thoughts and emotions and desires, I again had the same concept of containers being filled with what looked like seeds. So I don't believe that's Frederick's plane or Frederick. I believe that's related to whatever he was observing, and it appears that the occupants or the object itself was involved in collecting animals, plants, and other substances for some type of a purpose, and could be related to food or somehow an ingredient for some type of a greater purpose. Stage 3 was a little bit different. Going fairly quickly through this, I did by stage 1, had the concept of aerospace, going to the moon. Again, a man-made object that is occupied, that is moving, that is round, that is cylindrical, that is fast, that is silver, and perhaps there's some type of an impact. Saw this image, a round circular object, a sense of people, it being covered up, but people looking at it and people around this object. When I probed the object, I felt that it was cold, it was hardened. There was feelings of it being destitute. I had feelings of alarm and upset, feelings of anger and confusion, isolation, and something being foreign. At the same time, I felt like there was military associated with this target, had the concept of general soldier uniform, and that it might have been in an area that was desert-like with dry plants and rocks. I probed the object further and I got this bell-shaped, and I felt like there could be a crystal associated with it inside, and again, compartments inside, along with wires and cables. The object felt hollow, and it felt like it was for transportation, and that it floated, and it was in essence a machine. Here's a stage 3 drawing of what looked like propellers, and it was moving. I have a concept of wind and broken glass, a person in a tie that is driving, a man perhaps. The concept of celebration and drinks. I think we might be looking at Frederick's airplane again here, popping back into the session. And stage 3, when I tried to probe the life forms, I got what I believe is a symbolic image, which I probed and felt like it was related to military and some type of a task force. Probing the primary intent of the life forms at the target, I felt like they were involved in something that was stepping stones to the stars, that they were weaponizing something for some type of a military advantage. I saw wires going into what looked like tubes and had the concepts of technology and reverse engineering, a base, a satellite, and some type of a man-made metallic object. And that was the end of session 3. It's a fairly short one. So how does that relate to Frederick and his plane and the object he was seeing? I don't know. Was the object that he was seeing a UFO that crashed, and then that crash was retrieved by the military and reverse engineered? Or perhaps that craft is related to other crafts of a similar type that were retrieved by the military and reverse engineered? We did discuss this aspect of my session during a meeting, a debriefing for this target. And one thing that I didn't know was that other remote viewers and other people researching this type of subject believe that there are underground bases in Australia near the area where Frederick disappeared, and that there could be UFOs or technology associated with these underground bases. I'm not familiar with those underground bases, but it is interesting. All right, that is a quick summary of my data for the Frederick Valentich disappearance. Thanks for watching.
Hello friends, Dennis Nappy II here, and I'm going to go over my remote viewing data for Frederick Valentich, tasked to me by Daz Smith. I worked my first session on this one of 3 sessions, on March 6th, 2021. And in all 3 sessions, I certainly had elements of what seemed like 1 to 2 aircraft occupied by male life forms. I think I had elements of a male life form in each aircraft. Or airborne structure or aerial vehicle. Trying to use some plain speech here. There was a lot of energetics involved in this. I'm going to share my 3 sessions. I'm just going to go over some of the highlights here and not go through all the nitty-gritty details of it, as we're trying to keep it short here. But looking at my first session here, let's go to some of the high parts here, the highlights here. So I had this structure over land, and then I got this abrupt stop, still stationary, full descent, drop, drastic, and elevated. And that's what I was getting, just these energetic movements here. And I went a little bit further into my stage 2, and towards the end of my stage 2 portion of the session, I got an AOL of a ship, or a mini stage 3 sketch here you can see on the right hand side. So I'm starting to make some contact with the target, and I got this energetics here, which we'll see in my second session. It looks like there's some kind of energetic vortex that may have been involved here. At least that's what the data was telling me. Again, moving on, another object here, and here I'm starting to get, I think, the shape of one of the crafts. I think this is the UFO that I was seeing here, this circular shape here. And here's a more detailed sketch, still in stage 3 here, but it looks like there's an occupant here. I had an AOL of a pilot as I'm looking at this, and this gets more detailed in stage 2. But this pilot felt pretty calm. And again, just another vantage here of that. Looks like this A object here may be the craft itself. This could be Earth. This could be Frederick airplane here. I'm not sure what this was here. Okay, more looks like contact with the craft here. Just this glowing circular shaped object here. And then going into stage 4, I want this, and my interpretation here now, if this was a UFO event, whatever was occupying that UFO wanted the airplane, the aircraft, or maybe the pilot inside of it. Again, looking at life forms here, describing the primary life. What do they want? To learn. I'm here to learn, and they don't know it, but I don't know it yet. Okay. Bearing, to bear, carry like a burden, stressful, impactful, thought, concept, or idea. All of a sudden, in my stage 4, I don't like this. It's sad. It feels sad, depressive, lonely. So I think I'm contacting now the target itself, the pilot here. The event was open, calm, movement, and then an impact. Boom. And then I had this movement of this object, and it was down almost like it hit, but it didn't. And it just skipped up and kept going. Is it a golf ball? Almost moved like that with that kind of speed. A whooshing sound was loud overhead, and then a debris sound behind it. Unexpected shock and awe. I felt like maybe it didn't hit or impact. It just came very close. And I just kept getting that sensation here. And then here we are, life form male, confident. Had like a Tony Stark feeling, pilot. And then just some stage 5 here. I had the word manipulate and going through it. It was an injustice here. Okay. These are all the big ones. We're going to get to my stage 6. And this was my stage 6 sketch that I did here again. And I suspect this is the UFO that I'm having contact with. Moving on to my second session here, I was tasked to get more information on the event and to get more detail on my sketches. And more on that, I said it didn't feel like it hit or impacted, to get more information on that as well. So going into this right away, let's take a look here. More energetics, this spiraling energetics. And I think this is really touching base with some kind of vortex or portal, or it could have been the movement of the craft. Here it is again. And now we're getting the life form inside this craft. And this was kind of neat. You had the life form inside this shell, but then the outer shell seemed to be rotating or moving, while the inside of this, the inner portion of this, seemed to be motionless and still. I think this was some kind of UFO craft here. And then there was now maybe this here we're looking at our target itself, the pilot here at Frederick Valentich, because this seems more like the controls here of possibly of an airplane. He was gritting his teeth, he had his feet down, and then looking at a little bit more detail. Again, this is that movement, that downward descent, and then up, leaving kind of smoke or debris. And then here we are again, that energetic vortex. More of that. Okay, and now a second aircraft here. I hadn't drawn something with this shape. I had an AO of Edgar Mitchell, the Apollo astronaut here. But I had a hot exchange between objects. Capture, return, beam, slow. Did something pass over this? So I'm getting elements here of the interaction between two aircraft here. Just more sounds here with my S4 data. It was impactful, important, significant, historical. And then someone was feeling relief. We or I did it, and they had that feeling of relief here. That was their pattern of movement there. Okay. And now, again, I had a male with just large teeth in his mouth. I kept seeing a male with large teeth, a male life form. All right, let me just get to my final sketch on this one here. Again, I'm trying to keep this short with my data and just give the highlights of it. Here it is here, just, whatever this craft is, maybe going into that vortex, or that's the movement it's going through there. And then looking at my final session, I got a little bit more detail, I think, on the pilots here, the occupants, and some sketches of it. I was tasked with my movement order. What happens to this life at the target? Or directly after the target. And this session got emotional. I actually was almost brought to tears. But the emotion that I felt was a sense of relief and thankfulness. Like either I did it or I survived. Now, I don't know if that was Valentich's feeling of relief after the event. Maybe he survived it, or if this was the pilot of the UFO, because I do have some data that indicates maybe this was his mission to encounter this pilot here. So maybe he was feeling the relief as well. I'm not sure on that. But here we go again, looking at just some stage 2 data as we get into my stage 3. More of these just crazy energetics, turmoil, excitement, chaos, chaotic, in between, Passover. It's an event, turning, transition. So something was happening here. I had the name Walton come up as an AOL, like Travis Walton from the movie, from the book Fire in the Sky. Which is a concerning data point to get here. Looking at the primary life, eyes were wide with fear, anxiety, anticipation. Anticipation of what? The coming arrival, and then the departure. It's here. He has arrived, I write. It's an S3.5. A summoning of great importance here. I was just starting to get, again, I think this is the UFO here. It was floating or hovering. It was etheric. There was like this magnetic resistance coming off of this object here, this airborne object. And I had someone with just their heart was pounding, and I wrote down bug eyes. I had these big eyes. I tried to sketch what the eye looked like. I feel like the eyes were very wide, the skin around them. I can't explain. They just, the skin folded on itself differently here. Surprise, shock, and wonder, bewilderment, but excitement and confidence. And I had woohoo, like laughter, confident relief. I didn't AOL of Star Wars, stress reduction. Is this Valentich here, or is this the occupant of the UFO? I'm not sure. Looking at a little bit more detail into this here. Again, I think this is just the movement stop, like a sensation. They're stuck, pause, impact, but not. It was just like this sudden movement, a stop, and it didn't quite impact, but it was startling. And then I started getting inside of one of these craft with some foot pedals here, and I saw, this kind of bodysuit here. So again, is this the UFO? I mean, I think this might have been that almond or egg-shaped UFO that I had sketched in my previous session here. And then I got this, just a quick glimpse here of a primitive-looking male making snorting and grunting sounds, almost ape-like. I had biblical here, Ezekiel, Enoch, just that biblical feel and time frame from it. Scrunched face, dark hair on the arms. I saw like a humanoid looking being here. Went into my stage 4 here, and again, I didn't know if this was the top view or the side view, but this looks like it was what the craft was, egg shaped, almost like the Kecksburg craft. And again, here we go. We have a life form inside this craft, and it hovers like this above the ground, but it moves at any angle in any direction. It was really neat the way this craft was kind of controlled and manipulated. I think it had something to do with those foot pedals. And I wanted to describe the primary life, male, gruff, with the hairy arms. I think this might be the occupant of the UFO here. Something with the arm hair. And then I was moving to what happens to the life form at the target. So I'm looking at Valentich now. There was pressure on the third eye, something with consciousness and awareness, shock, impact, and awe. A pressure in the mind, something changes. Was it knowledge, experience, or growth? And then looking at this as maybe some kind of rite of passage. I don't know. Is this a rite of passage that Valentich is going through, or was this encounter the rite of passage by the occupant of the UFO that they had to go through here? Something they had to do. Then looking at 5 minutes after the event, the target event, we had just a feeling of calm, relief, justified, emotional. I had crying, overwhelmed with emotion. I remember doing this session, like I was almost sobbing. I felt it, and it was just, and it was like a sense of relief or joy, like I just survived something horrendous, jubilation, love, and wonder. I have and again, this is just 5 minutes after the initial contact. Did something beyond that happen? I don't know. I didn't go any further into it. I just had a strong emotional feeling of relief and thankfulness after a life-changing event, overcome with emotion due to the point of almost to the point of tears. It felt positive to me, and again, I think it was like, hey, I just survived something absolutely terrifying. Okay. And then my stage 5 here, I'm not going to go through that data right now. Let's move on. Again, just my stage 6 sketch here was just someone on their knees, love and flowing. Now, I don't know how to interpret that data. This could be our pilot. Doesn't really look like the pilot, though. He was clean shaven. So I wonder, in just looking at my data on its own, without comparing it to the other viewers' data, I wonder if there was an encounter here between two aircraft, and almost as if the UFO and the occupant had to perform this as kind of a rite of passage. And maybe that's the being that was feeling thankful afterwards that it completed its mission. And the, Valentich, was the one that was experiencing all of that fear. I'm not really sure exactly how to interpret that data, but that's what I got. And there you have it, friends. So that's my data.
One Love Daz. Just decided to make a video going over my data, my 3 sessions. I'm going to explain my data, my thoughts on it, and also just go into some, feedback and follow-up information that I found, digging around after working this. I wasn't too familiar with the Valentich disappearance. I've heard of it. I've read about it a couple times, but I never really watched conferences about it or got too deep into it. But yeah, let me just jump into this. And this was really a bizarre experience for me. So here's my first session. This starts with what looks like a ball of light. Interestingly, I had a probe of artificial right here in my beginning ideograms. I'm just gonna go straight to the, to the highlights, the parts that, I can explain to you. So there's a land gestalt associated with this target, and I think this is really important. I get a sense that, I see a land that's a burial ground. Grass on both sides, headstones. Something about this is hidden. Hidden. Misty, there's mist and fog that trails around low over the surface of the land. It looks like fog, but I'm going to get into that a bit later. But this is cemetery-like, and I get the sense of resurrect the dead. Like, there's people here who believe in that, or there's people here who do that. Probing into it, I did an S4 matrix. I get a sense of spirit communication, summon, grave, and I get a sense of a Victorian burial ground, past, hidden secrets. So, I felt that this being a target that occurred in Australia and Tasmania area, Victorian seems like an accurate data point. So I felt like, after getting the feedback, I feel like we're going somewhere with this. Looking at another aspect of land, here I see a homestead, like a large house, a nice looking house. Well, it would have been looking nice. This is older now, but, would be a nice house. I get a sense of an orphanage. It's a halfway house or an orphanage. Vegetation surrounding it. There's trees, and I get the word Castro. So this might be like a family name, maybe. I'm not sure, but associated with this target is an orphanage, halfway house, an estate. I get a sense that it's secluded. It's haunted. You know what I mean? The emotions are like stay away. People would say stay away from there. It's haunted. And the use of this, this gets kind of dark. I get the sense that this was kind of like a clandestine recruitment place where they kind of filter or groom people. Like, there's a lot of stories of halfway houses and orphanages being used to like find children and prey on people and groom them through that source. I feel like this is something like that is associated with this disappearance case. Looking inside, I'm inside the structure. Frames on the hall, old carpet. I get a sense that it doesn't feel modern, but this was a nice place back in the day when it was in its heyday. But I get a sense that it's decrepit now. It's haunted, a sense of spirits, and I put haunted house vibe there. There's a cabin. There's a structure. There's a cabin associated with this structure. This is like cabin in the woods feel. And I got the sense that this is like a morgue, and there's an undertaker, and spirits devolve and reincarnate. Now these are words that I don't really use these words. I don't devolve. Spirits devolve. I don't think I've ever really said that before, but I put weird data points here. I see a life associated with this. I get the sense that someone may have already been researching this place, this orphanage, this house that's associated with this target. I get a sense of research, investigate. I see a person looking in a boxy structure. And I see what looks like a headstone or a stone with a logo or a sigil carved into it, and I get a sense that there's a clan mystery involved with this. Concentric features. There might be an animal or something carved in the center, but circular concentric feature. I had AOLs of apparitions and light balls floating, things floating around inside this structure, inside the house. Poltergeist type phenomenon, haunted, infested. And I saw a skeleton in a pit, and I get a sense that someone's preserving skeletons, and I'll get more on that later. And back to the air, I saw the fog kind of like swirling around near the surface. It looks like fog, but I get the sense that this is a spirit phenomenon. Like the foggy stuff's moving around on the land. It's not fog. It's like a spirit type thing, spirit apparition. So yeah, a lot of spirit stuff here. Graveyard, burial ground, haunted house associated with this target. So I went on to my second session here. Early on, I see what looks like a figure rising out of the ground. I get a sense of light and dark meet, like the division between the light and dark. Looking at land again, I see this burial ground again. I get a smell of rotting flesh, hidden secrets, and I see, these flat gravestones that lay flat on the ground like tiles. Looking at that, I see it's like some of these have been lifted. Headstones have been dug up and lifted. Some of them are missing. People are missing. This was creepy. I saw two people carrying what I get the sense of is like a sack of bones or a body. You know what I mean? One of them is saying this is like a sack of bones. The other one's saying hurry. They're carrying it in like a tarp or a cloth, and I get the sense that these guys are grave diggers. They're into this morbid kind of thing, and they're basically digging it up to preserve it because they want to resurrect it later. And I wrote digging up graves to try and resurrect and preserve bodies. Weird stuff. I had a data point of morgue and mortician earlier on in the session. Here I see a body on a table, and I wrote, mortician? ? And I get a sense of this person's cut open and something's embalmed, and that's something they do to preserve bodies, and kind of continuing on with what I had earlier. And I get a sense of incarnate with a large opening in the chest, and again I get resurrect the dead. This is stuff I never talk about. I've never gotten this in a remote viewing session before. Looking for more. Here I see a circle of people in hoods, like a hooded clan, I wrote. And there's a bright light in the center, and there's humming. There's a solemn mood here. And I get the sense that they're summoning spirits to incarnate. Yeah, trippy, creepy kind of stuff there. Summon, resurrect, paranormal and spooky, I felt. The motive felt like a ritual ceremony to bring back life, to repeat, to come back, to welcome and receive. I broke out into a S5 on summon, and I get a sense that this is they're summoning and integrating an aura or a disincarnate life force or a spirit form. You know what I mean? They're summoning that from a grave to reincarnate. And I broke out resurrect, and I get a sense of to bring back a lost soul, to replenish, to reinvigorate, from skeleton and flesh, resurrect, ceremonial. And I was doing a little bit of research on that, and it turns out there are allegedly rituals that involve cutting out a heart and doing these kind of things to allegedly bring back life. I'm not really that knowledgeable on that, but there's stuff like that in voodoo and other practices. Looking at the hooded life, here I see them drinking. I see one drinking out of like a golden cup. I get a sense of revel, like they're kind of like partying and having fun with this. A drink, spill blood, take it in, spark of life. Hooded figure holds shiny cup and drinks. And I wrote, vampire shit. It was like pretty creepy stuff. Moving on, my final session. Did the movement order you told me to move before the death event. Again, this was a very, very vivid image. I saw robed people in robes walking around a very bright light source like a fire. And I get a sense of summon. Inferno, almost like opening a portal. And I see some of them are wearing masks, like eyes wide shut type stuff. You know what I mean? Very, very scary type visual. So here I broke out some ideograms, and I feel like there's two main life involved with the death event. You know what I mean? With what happened before the death event, and an energy. There's one life. One life feels like a group of life. They're a close-knit group, and they feel like they sacrifice or give an offering. An offering is given. The energy feels like it engulfs. It's a white, wispy, foggy, glowing luminescence. And the other life, the sea here, my sea aspect, this feels like a life that's used, tricked, replaced, and covered. So that was a very interesting data point there. It's like Fred may have been tricked. Doing a sketch of the main event only in detail, I get a sense of, two life. One life, they travel, insert, and replace an organ. I got the sense of, back on that again, organ. And then there's a second life. They feel like they're lower. And yeah, I get a sense of stuck, sealed, trapped, held hostage. And I had AOL of like basement. Someone's held hostage. And I get a sense of bury, seal, hide. They're keeping someone hidden. Yeah, that's my life 1 and life 2 there. So my life 2, they feel scared, trapped. And my AI is like run, escape. They're hidden and sealed. And the cause, probing into the cause, I felt like they've been kidnapped, taken. And again, I get this sacrifice offering. Stolen and nabbed. I never use that word nabbed, but yeah, nabbed. So here I went for a visual of this life 2, and this was a pretty shocking visual here. This person's tied down. I get trapped, bound, rope, and I see them like struggling and squirming, and I get hogtied, kidnapped. They try to pull their arms, but they're bound, and I get a sense of implant, like they put something in here in this person. And sojourn, another word that I don't use, but I know what it means. That's like when you stay somewhere. This like Fred might have been here for a day or two. They might have kept him here. And I get sacrificial altar, very strong, this impression. And some very bizarre follow-up data with this later. I'll show you after all this. So yeah, dread, panic, run and hide. Here I see two people carrying a body. Again, this is, you know, the second time I'm seeing this kind of thing. This one wasn't in a tarp. This one was, they're just carrying him. I see them with their hands on their on his legs sticking out. And life one, the one who I got the sense was traveled and insert or replaced an organ. This is a white male in a white coat. And I get the sense that this person's a mortician, like the Undertaker. Sinister, butcher, slice, cut. I get the sense that this guy does the murder. You know, I get murder. And I got this impression of body snatchers. So, like, I didn't know. I had to look up. There's a movie called Body Snatchers, you know, and it's about people who get, like, replicated. Like, I'll touch on that after. You probably know more about that than me, Daz. But yeah, I got this impression of body snatchers. Like, these people steal bodies. So I did a movement to the optimal point of view, and again, I get life, buried, hold, trap, seal, panic, and then followed by some strange, weird, and debased type behavior. And finally, I see two life lowering a box into, you know, a boxy structure down into the land, like a burial. This feels like a burial, and I keep getting the sense of, like, zombie. Like, I don't know if buried alive, but something's not right. They're putting someone down here, and yeah, it's just really weird. And then I see this ghostly, wispy, foggy thing that looks like fog, but it actually forms up. I see it form up and create an actual face, like it actually has a face in it. And I get a sense that it's like a non-physical type spirit phenomenon there. So after looking at the feedback, the Frederick Valentich disappearance event, you know, I started clicking on the links, looking through the feedback. I wasn't super familiar with this one. Heard about it a few times. Started reading the article about a show that was, you know, inspired by it. So I thought, okay, let me watch this show. I found a free link to it online, so, you know, it's only 8 episodes long. So I thought, what the hell? Let me watch this thing. The Kettering Incident, it's called. It came out in 2016. It's they have scenes in there. They kind of like create a fictional timeline. It's set in the same area as the Valentich disappearance event, and they actually have scenes. Like, there's one here where it's like Valentich is actually there. He makes little appearances in the movie. They play there's a scene where the main character's in her car, and Valentich's radio distress call when he's describing the event that happened, where he sees something, lights around his plane. She hears it in her car. So it's kind of like it's happening in the same time that this fictional storyline is happening. They've integrated the disappearance into this fictional storyline. Later in the show, they show there's a guy here in a kayak, and there's a crash plane. They're showing it, you know, at the bottom of the ocean, I guess, kind of hinting. They don't specifically say anything about it here, but, you know, I guess they're kind of hinting that Fred's plane crashed there or something like that, maybe. But the show revolves around missing people. It's about, you know, they're fictional missing people in the show. One in specific, there's 2 girls in the show that go missing. They go out to the forest, and they see strange lights, like balls of light and stuff, and people go missing. And this causes a big, you know, investigation. Some people in this town think it's UFOs. Some people think there's like a rebel group that lives in the forest. Some people think it's them. There's another there's a part of this plot where it's like up in the forest there's also this creepy house, this old, they call it the old Mother Sullivan's house, and it's like a creepy house that's like on a burial ground. it's like a haunted house on a burial ground. And this is where things started getting kind of strange for me. So yeah, there's this isolated out in the woods, up in the hills type haunted house. Here's a couple screenshots. These are all from the show here. The house here. Interestingly, they also show these scenes where there's like this gray fog is just looming around the land, and they give you this ominous feeling about it. They don't really say anything about it though. I thought that was interesting too. But this is where things got kind of scary for me, really bizarre. There's a scene where one of the police officers investigating the missing people, he's concerned that the missing people have something to do with the house out in the woods, the haunted house up in the woods. So he goes out in the forest and he finds like these night vision military goggles, and he looks through them, and he ends up seeing hooded figures out in the woods, and I was kind of like scared at that point. I was like, wow, there's a lot of parallels between what I got in my session and the things they're showing in this series that's inspired by his disappearance. So those two were already making me like kind of trip out. So I think, let me finish watching this. But it got better or worse. I don't know how you want to think of it. There's a scene where someone gets tied up and left as a sacrifice, like pretty much almost exactly how I saw in my session. In the show, they think this guy raped a girl, and they take him and they tie him up and they leave him out in the woods in the same area where these lights are, these spooky lights come and people go missing. And you could see here, he's off in the distance, you could see the lights are coming, and he ends up being left there as a sacrifice for them. So that was pretty heavy seeing that. And I had the there's a lot of things in the show, Daz. You really got to check this one out. But there's also mentions of like a mortician type thing in the show as well. Like there's a corrupt mortician involved in the plot as well. So the coincidences and the parallels are just mind blowing to me. And the series ends with the main character ends up going underground and finding that a lot of these missing people were actually somehow duplicated or replicated. You know what I mean? Like they got body snatched essentially. And it's funny, I used the word body snatchers in the session because I never seen the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but this series actually takes a lot of cue points and story points from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I went and watched it the other day to kind of just get myself up to pace on all this stuff. So yeah, the main character sees herself, and that's pretty interesting. But what was really interesting in terms of the Valentich, tying it back to the Valentich disappearances, I was reading up, and apparently there's a weird substantiated report from a Spanish researcher, Manuel Carballo, and he alleges that several witnesses spoke to a man claiming to be Fred Valentich and answering to his description and brandishing an Australian passport to prove it, who appeared in Plaza del Charro in the Canary Islands in the 1990s, and claimed that he was a part of a select group of humans who had been recruited by ETs. So it's like, I'm not much of a, it's pretty woo-woo stuff there, but I mean, the show is, inspired by his disappearance, and the data that I got is just bizarre. That it's like this sense of body snatching, duplicating someone, and there's actually some kind of report where people say that might be true. So just an interesting point there to throw in. So yeah, here's just a couple comparisons. The haunted house I drew, I had a haunted house type thing in my session. This show also has that haunted house in the woods, which is associated with a burial ground, which I also was a part of my session. hooded figures shown in the show for a very brief moment, not even explained. They don't give any explanation for that. I had that being a key part of my session in the disappearance of Valentich. Hooded clan, summoning spirits, some kind of spiritual occult ritual used to involved in him going missing. And then, this one was just shocking to me. I saw a life kidnapped and tied, left for a sacrifice. And, the show has a similar thing. So my conclusions on my data and, maybe what I think in terms of what it can mean or leads for researchers, I feel like the whole transcript of Fred's back and forth with the flight command, I don't think there's actually any real recording. It's just, kind of hearsay and the transcripts, but there's no recording. But allegedly one of the last words he said, people keep saying, is that he said it's not a UFO or it's not an aircraft or something like that. I'm gonna have to say, according to my data, I would say it probably wasn't an aircraft. We're probably dealing with some kind of spiritual phenomenon. And I feel like Fred fell victim to some kind of clan who is practicing some kind of, to us, I guess, very mysterious form of occult magic, spirit communication, which involves body snatching, digging up graves. And Australia, I was looking it up, Australia actually has a long history of grave digging and body snatching, grave snatching and grave robbing. So I'd say for people, researching this, possibly look into haunted maybe in the in that area where in the Melbourne area or in the area where Fred went missing, some kind of leads connected to orphanage, a haunted orphanage, a halfway house, burial ground, Victorian burial ground that maybe has a history of grave snatching and grave digging. And I did have the sense that there may be a researcher who is already onto this clan, onto this story. So possibly it's just tying up some loose ends. But very interesting target, Daz. I'm very, I really want to see what the other viewers get. I didn't get anything with an airplane, but, it would be interesting to see if anyone else maybe gets some data on what exactly how he got kidnapped, because for me it just seems like I didn't get anything about a plane. So interesting nonetheless, especially the bizarre, very bizarre parallels to the show inspired by his disappearance. It makes me think maybe the people who wrote that show might know more about what happened to Fred than they're willing to say openly. So yeah, that's my data on this target. Hopefully that's interesting. Thanks for the opportunity. One love.